Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. WildMax1 here bringing another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today we're going to be doing another champion guide, this time on one of the absolute best single target boss slayers in all of Raid. I am of course talking about the one-winged, blue-bowed, attack-based champion from the Shadowkin faction, Ninja. I'll be breaking down his skills, showing you how to build him, and finally doing a showcase in Dungeons and Demon Lord and Hydra clan boss. Let's get into it. So Ninja was released as a free login champ in July of 2021 and became an instant hit with the Raid community. So much so that he was then later re-released as a free login champ in July of 2024. Ninja has incredible damage abilities, really good scaling in a fight that allows him to deal more damage the longer the encounter goes on. To this day, I still use Ninja on my Demon Lord clan boss team and my Nightmare Hydra team. With that, let's take a look at his skills and what makes him so special. On his A1, Shatterbolt. Attacks one enemy, has a 45, booking up to a 60% chance of placing a big decreased defense for 2 turns. Also fills this champion's turn meter by 15% when used against bosses. So again, this guy is one of the best boss slayers in the entire game. He ramps himself here with his turn meter whenever he hits a boss, and he provides himself with one of the best, arguably the best, damage dealing debuff in the entire game. Granted, it's not a 100% chance, but this is still an amazing A1. On his A2, Hailburn. Attacks 3 times at random. Each hit has a 75, booking up to 100% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 3 turns. Also places Perfect Veil on this champion when used against bosses. This will instantly activate any HP burn debuffs, including HP burn debuffs placed by this skill. 4 turn, booking down to a 3 turn cooldown. Really good A2, amazing boss killer. Again, HP burn, the more HP a target has, the more it's going to do. And since this does hit at random, if you're facing only one target, you guarantee that all of it lands on the same target. If you're in wave-based content or if you're in Hydra, for example, you can't necessarily guarantee that it's going to be hitting on the target that you want, but it's still going to be applying HP burns, which is really helpful for getting through Poison Cloud. And also, he applies his own Perfect Veil with this ability, which is incredible for increasing his survivability and dodging relevant mechanics such as Fear from the Head of Torment. Really good A2. On his A3, Cyan Slash. Attacks all enemies, has a 75, booking up to 100% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. When targeting a boss, will only attack the boss and will ignore 50% of the target's defense. Will also decrease the cooldown of his A2 by 1 turn. This is on a 5 turn, booking down to a 4 turn cooldown. Really great A3. It's got kind of an ability to be both a wave-based skill and a single target skill. When it's wave-based, it's more about control and it's about applying that freeze. And when it's hitting a boss, it's doing a ton of damage because it's ignoring 50% of the target's defense and bringing his A2 off cooldown even faster. Great A3. And once again, we see the common theme through the A1, 2, and 3 is that there's extra modifiers for bosses. So clearly he really is a champ geared towards slaying those single target big bosses. Finally, Ninja's passive. Escalation increases Ninja's attack by 10% up to 100% and crit damage by 5 up to 25% each time a single enemy is hit by all 3 of Ninja's active skills in a round. This can occur multiple times against the same enemy in order to hit those caps. When fighting bosses, Ninja will increase his attack and crit damage faster by 20% and 10% respectively, still with the same caps. So in my intro, this is exactly what I was talking about when I meant that he has such incredible damage scaling. He gets better throughout a fight. The more often he can cycle through all of his abilities against bosses, if he cycles through them 5 times, he gets the maximum of 100% extra attack. That means a ninja built with 6,000 attack is going to be at 12,000 attack. And this is exactly why he's a boss killer, because he just keeps getting stronger. So in longer encounters with tougher enemies, more HP totals, he's going to be doing a lot more damage as that encounter continues. So things like Hydra, Chimera, Demon Lord, this is really where he excels. He's not really a burst champion, although he can do some damage as burst. His best use case is in protracted encounters where he can stack up this amazing escalation passive and start really ramping his damage. Looking at Ninja's total stats, we see just under 17k HP. That's fine for an attack-based damage dealer. 1500 attack, very solid. Under 1k defense, not ideal, but he's really not squishy that he's going to be falling over in any encounter you're going to be throwing him into. and then 100 speed, which is fine. The rest are pretty standard for a damage dealer. When building your ninja, the one thing you really need to focus on is to make sure that he has enough accuracy to be landing all of his debuffs and enough speed for whatever encounter it is you're running. Depending on how high you're going to be pushing him, if you're going to be in Ultra Nightmare Chimera, you might need a lot more than you would in just Ultra Nightmare Demon Lord Clan Boss or in regular normal dungeons. So again, speed and accuracy for whatever you're running. After that, 100% crit, and then attack and crit damage. Ninja can get by just having accuracy and speed and survivability just because he will be doing damage from his HP burns. However, to get the most out of your ninja, he's going to be pretty stat hungry because you want not just the accuracy to land the HP burns, but you also want the attack and crit damage to get all that value out of his escalation passive. So we're going to get into that right now in the builds. So what approach you take to gearing your ninja is going to be largely informed by, once again, how many stats you can get on him reliably. If you're earlier game, you don't have your Great Hall maxed out yet, you don't have Ninja very high awakened yet, you don't have the right damage dealer gear, you pretty much can just rely on getting him with enough accuracy and speed and putting him in perception gear, which he really loves for accuracy and speed, and you can pretty much get your hands on this quite easily, and he's going to deal just great damage for you with the HP burns along with War Master in his Masteries. That's going to be a pretty good earlier game ninja. If you can support just that, just making sure that he has enough accuracy, speed, and survivability with something like Perception or even Affinity Breaker, if you can get that just to give him a little bit of a chance to weak hit less on certain encounters where he has a bad affinity matchup, something like that would be fine. Once you're able to support getting crit damage and attack and meeting accuracy and speed requirements on Ninja, I'm going to strongly recommend that you go with either Savage or Instinct or Merciless to pick up that ignore percent defense and then start stacking that attack as well to make use of that escalation passive. Taking Ninja from just entirely focusing on accuracy and speed to the ignore percent defense gear, you will see a massive damage increase on those bosses. Once again, because at that point, you really are taking more advantage of this doubling of his attack from escalation. Now, the reason of all of the ignore percent defense gear, so we're talking Instinct, Savage, Lethal, Merciless. Merciless is by far the best one for Ninja. Now, you don't even necessarily need to go all the way down to 9-piece. If you have it, great. But even going down to the 6-piece or even the 4-piece, if that's all you have, is really great on Ninja because, once again, he likes to stack his passive up as quickly as possible. So having that 4-piece with that increase, that 30% chance to decrease a skill's cooldown by 1 turn when dealing damage is extremely potent and is going to make him deal a lot more damage more quickly into a fight, resulting in more overall damage. Getting to the 6-piece means you get 35% ignore defense from your gear. For any 6 pieces you can put on a damage dealer, that is the highest ignore percent defense in the game. That's more than a Lethal plus Cruel. It is the best in terms of dealing damage and ignoring percent defense. So for my money, Merciless gear, 6-piece or 9-piece is probably going to be the most damage once you start getting to that ignore percent defense gear. After that, I'd do probably like Lethal plus Cruel or Savage plus Cruel or something like that. But this is really what you're going to be hopefully aiming for, again, because of him getting his abilities off cooldown faster. So before we get into my gear and how I have him actually built, I wanted to put up this little accuracy requirement notepad here that I put together. So we see there for Demon Lord Ultra Nightmare, 250 is what you need to be landing debuffs. For Hydra, the highest you'll need is 360. For Chimera, 475. That's on the RAM form. If you're not looking to DPS the RAM form, then it's going to be a little lower. I think 450 or 425. And then for Sand Devil 25, 495. These are just some numbers to keep in mind. Obviously, if you're just going to be running him in dungeons, it's going to be far less than getting anywhere near 400 or 350. But these are just some of the ones to keep in mind as you're going to be gearing out your ninja. So now let's take a look at how I have my ninja built. We already saw 6-piece Merciless on him, so I get that ignore percent defense along with the skill cooldowns. For my ring, attack with attack ascension with attack percent substat. For my amulet, we have crit damage with crit damage ascension. For my banner, I have accuracy with attack. If you meet accuracy requirements through your gear, you obviously don't have to have this be accuracy. You could have it just be attack with attack. For my gloves, I have crit damage with attack percentage. This could easily be crit damage. I just left it attack percentage because I'm happy with this crit damage. Attack with attack on the chest, and speed with speed on the boots. For my total stats, we're looking at 49k HP, 6.1, 6.2k attack, 2.4k defense, a little bit low, but still does fine. 253 speed, crit capped, 327 crit damage, and just under 400 accuracy. If we remember from this little thing, all I really need from him is Demon Lord and Nightmare Hydra. So for me, that accuracy requirement is met, and I'm happy with this set. For relics on Ninja, you actually have quite a few good options on him. I run Erethi Coronet on Ninja. Now, there's been a debate in the community for a while what the best approach is for Ninja's relic. Up in the consideration are Erethi Coronet, then we also have Scroll of the Unseen. So Erethi Coronet, wears damage increases by a certain percent each time they place a debuff, stacks up to 30%. So this is just a flat 30% damage increase. For Scroll of the Unseen, the wearer's damage increases by 1% each time another champion takes a turn while the wearer is under Perfect Veil. Ninja's going to be under Perfect Veil a lot because of his A2, and then it can stack once again up to 30%. I think between these two, no matter what, Erethi Coronet is always going to be more reliable than Scroll of the Unseen, because Ninja is going to stack those up, the Erethi Coronet up pretty fast with all the debuffs he's placing, and there's no conditional on it. This resets each time the wearer deals damage. So if you happen to be on a Chimera run and or a Clan Boss run and somebody dies, suddenly there's less turns before you, less champions are taking a turn before Ninja goes. His damage drops a little bit. It's just not as consistent in my mind as the Erethi Coronet. So with that out of the way, then the debate becomes, do you want to have a flat percent damage increase, or do you want to have that's not the right place. Do you want to have a relic that gives you more ignore percent defense, right? Something like the only one in the game right now that can do that, and that is the Cat's Gaze. So you ignore percent defense based on the target having more max HP than you. Ninja's a boss killer. He's always going to be hitting targets with more max HP, or should be. And so this is the other big one that's been debated for him as which one is best. So it's Erethi or Cat's Gaze. I've personally tried both of them out. And the answer is it depends. It depends specifically on how high you have your Ninja awakened and how much ignore percent defense you already have on him. So if we go back to my Ninja, I currently have mine 6-star awakened, and I am using as my blessing Crushing Rend. Crushing Rend gives me 1% ignore defense for every 10 levels a boss has. So for example, in Nightmare Hydra, that's 31% ignore defense. Nightmare Hydra is my number one use case for Ninja, so I'm going to use that when we're going to be debating this right now specifically. So I have 35% ignore defense from my gear, 31% from my blessing, so that brings me up to 66. Then I have my Great Hall bonuses, so 20% increased ignore enemy defense from that. So that brings me up to 86%. Along with a Helm Smasher proc, that already takes me over 100% ignore defense. So I no longer need that from my relic. Now, we're stepping a little bit on the blessing part here, because we're going to be going over the debate between Nature's Wrath and Crushing Rend. But I have toyed with using both Nature's Wrath along with Cat's Gaze and using Crushing Rend along with Erethi Coronet, because both of them do the same thing. It's a flat damage increase or ignore percent defense. For all the testing that I've done on my Ninja, the way that I have him geared, the best option for damage that I have is to go Crushing Rend and to go Erethi Coronet. It just ekes out the damage. It does a little bit more than my Nature's Wrath and Cat's Gaze combo. But it's all going to depend on your ninja, all going to depend on your build, all going to depend on how much awakening you have on him, on how high of a, on what the rest of your gear looks like, on what your Great Hall bonuses look like. So it all depends. But truly, Erethi Coronet, Cat's Gaze, Scroll of the Unseen, 3 of the top tier damage relics that you can get on your ninja. If you don't have any of those, you can obviously just throw them in something like a Molten Death Bell just to get more accuracy requirements out of him. There's a lot of really good options for him, but those 3 are the primary really, really good relics for Ninja. So for blessings on Ninja, as we kind of already alluded to in the relics portion of the video, I think that there's 2 really good options once you have your damage set up for Ninja. If you're still working with just like mostly accuracy on Ninja and you don't really have the high attack or crit damage to support those ignore percent defense builds, I would recommend going Brimstone on him. I think this is just reliable boss damage, max HP boss damage that you get, along with his high accuracy guarantees that he places this. This is going to be relevant in pretty much all content that you run with him. If, however, you're able to upgrade his gear, and now you're looking at ignore percent defense and stacking attack, then your debate becomes between Crushing Rend and between Nature's Wrath. Now, Nature's Wrath, again, just a flat percent damage increase up to 30% at 6 star, whereas your Crushing Rend is just ignore percent defense. Which one do you choose? Again, depends on what the rest of your gear looks like, what the rest of your bonuses look like, and it's all going to depend on your specific champion. But the best 2 that you can go once you are stacking your attack and your crit damage on your ninja are going to be either Crushing Rend or Nature's Wrath. I recommend you test between the 2 and see which one works better for you. And just as a quick clarification, Crushing Rend really only becomes an option for Ninja at 6 star. Under 6 star, anything under 6 star on Ninja, even with a ignore percent defense build, you're going to be looking at Nature's Wrath, just because Crushing Rend is not going to apply for every hit, only the first 2 hits in a round, and that's really not useful for Ninja in anything because he's a champion that needs to ramp and needs to slowly start stacking his damage throughout an encounter. So at 6 star, Crushing Rend, below 6 star, Nature's Wrath or Brimstone, depending on what your gear looks like. And finally, to round out my Ninja's build, let's take a look at the Masteries. Move myself over here. All right, as my primary tree, I went down offense. Again, if you are still earlier in the game and you're looking more for just that accuracy kind of build with the HP burns, I would recommend taking War Mastery as your tier 6 mastery. If you're able to build the ignore percent defense gear on Ninja while maintaining accuracy and you have all those stats to put on him, I definitely recommend going Helm Smasher. I do think sticking with methodical in either build is really important, as A1 can absolutely smack, as I'll show in the Hydra showcase today. Having Life Drinker is really helpful to keep him alive if he ever gets low, and Cycle of Violence is just more opportunities for Ninja to cycle through his abilities and stack up his escalation faster. As a secondary tree, I went down support, going with all the accuracy masteries here, going down, picking up Master Hexer in order to have his HP burn stay up longer, as well as his decreased defense and his freezes if need be. And then I also took the Sniper Mastery just to ensure that he lands his decreased defense more often, because it's only up to 60% from his abilities alone. If you don't want to go for that, you can also go for Cycle of Magic, again, to try to get that random skill cooldown reduction. So the first place that I want to showcase today is going to be Sand Devil 25. So Ninja is a champion that's very good at this. Unfortunately, at 25, he has a negative affinity matchup here, so there could be some weak hits. My Ninja is also not currently built with the correct accuracy requirements for this dungeon, which sits at 495. My Ninja is at 395, so he's unlikely to land any HP burns, which significantly speeds up this run. But we're just going to demonstrate how this looks with Aniri and Ninja together. So Feasting Swarm goes out, knocks out Aniri. Aniri's passive reses her. She then revives Ninja, and then Ninja goes with his A2 and does some damage, maybe hitting with another ability, then getting knocked out. Aniri stays alive because she's tanky enough, and then eventually the boss will go and do another Feasting Swarm. Aniri will once again resurrect herself, then go with Ninja, and so the whole cycle continues until the boss is down. Now, my Ninja did, I believe, get 1 HP burn on the first round, none on the second. He's still going to get through this, but it's obviously not nearly as quick as it should be. If you're doing this earlier game, as long as you have Aniri tanky enough and Ninja accurate enough to land his HP burns, you should get through this pretty quickly and pretty efficiently. And it's a very viable strategy for farming oils from Sand Devil 25. All right, for the final showcase in today's video, I wanted to show what Ninja can do in Nightmare Hydra. He is my #1 damage dealer on my best team in Nightmare Hydra. I've experimented with some other damage dealers already. This is, however, the best result that I've been able to get on Nightmare Hydra. Just over 1 billion damage with Ninja doing the absolute vast majority of that. This team is all built around ally attackers, such as Teox and Mikage and Mad Hatter, that enable Ninja to use his A1 more often. And then Feral is there to give a passive boost to damage, as well as some protection sets on Elva and on Lady Mikage. So with that, let's get right into it. We're not going to save this one because Hydra Clash hasn't begun yet, but we're going to get into it right now. I'm going to actually manual it for a little while and skip ahead until we get to the point where Ninja's escalation passive has fully stacked up. And at that point, I'm going to showcase some of those really hard hits that he's able to execute on this fight. All right, this is a little bit further into the fight where it's 7 minutes in, already at 60 million damage. So this is without any kind of ally attack boosting it. This is just Ninja doing one of his A1s into a dead head. Let's see what kind of damage we do. 1.9 million. That's pretty good considering that that's also one of the tankiest heads. So we're going to continue on and see as this starts to progress up. So right now we're at 1.9 million. Let's see how high we can get. All right, here's just a couple of, just a minute later in the fight, but we have a really good setup here. We have decreased defense already on the head that he just hit, along with the A2 from Mad Hatter. That's going to be doing more damage based on how many debuffs are on the head. So let's see how much he does with this hit. 4.2 million on that one. And these are pretty commonly large hits once you start getting later into the game. Again, right now, we're still in the ramping phase. Erethi Coronet still needs to fully stack up, and my escalation still is not quite close enough. I think I need 2 more stacks on it, but really solid damage, even with the non-burn portion of his A2 of Hail Burn there. He was doing 1 million hits on the decapitated head. All right, let's see what he can do on this one right here, provided Teox doesn't take it out. 5.4 million. So as you can see, and once you get towards the near the end of the Chimera run, I've seen hits up to close to 6.87 million from Ninja. As a damage dealer in Hydra, he is one of the best, provided you can build a team around him that supports his incredible damage. Mine getting up to, with full escalation, all the way up to 12k attack. Obviously going to be doing a lot of damage in Hydra on those decapitated heads. And there you have it, everybody. Ninja, one of the best PvE damage dealers. Build him right, and he's going to carry you right through most of the content in the game. If you found today's guide helpful, please let me know down in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already for more content. Thank you for watching today's video. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.